And that's how he entered into the...
That's how he entered in customs. And ultimately, he was posted at the border, at the Malaba border.
Yeah.
And he used to stamp as people come in and come out. And he was there for some time.
So that's literally like the entry level.
The entry level, yes.
Customs.
Yes.
And you can see that there was a divine way he got into it.
Yes.
And did he see that maybe it was God, or he was just lucky to have been later got in?
When I was talking to him recently, he told me that was definitely God's hand at work.
Yeah.
And even as we track life, all of us need to realize that while we live a natural life, there's a divine hand that has been playing a role, whether we know it or not, in getting us to certain places and ensuring that we fulfill our purpose. And so for him, that was the pinnacle point.
Okay, so you're born in this family of, you say 3 other boys, to a teacher and a man who is trying to,
make ends meet, yeah.
So was he staying in Malaba while the rest of you in Kampala, or were you in the same place?
At a certain point, by the time I was born, we used to stay at the Winton Road.
That's in
Kampala here.
Okay.
We used to stay at the Winton Road. It was one house, but there were like 10 people, as you know how families can be. 10 people relatives staying in one house. And my dad was playing his role in taking care of everyone, just like most families at that time.
Yeah, and with like a school teacher mom, was it, if I'm beating kids at school, you also have to, was there that competition and that strictness?
And it's very interesting because most people don't know, I did my nursery at Christ the King.
That's also in the middle of town.
In the middle of town, Christ the King church. There was a nursery school there. I don't even know if it's still there.
Even the church is probably trying to do something there.
But then, after I finished nursery, my mom wanted me close to her, so she shifts me to, I do primary 1 in Shimoni. So you can imagine your mother is a teacher.
In the same school.
In the same school. You can't get away with anything. Okay? And if there's anything I remember from that period is that if your results were ever contrary to what mom and dad wanted, you wouldn't survive a beating.
They would make it a point.
They would make it a point, especially given the fact that she was a teacher.
And is that you've done your best, you performed, or they really actually asked you to be number 1, you have to get 90s?
It wasn't really number 1, it had to do with performance.
Yeah.
And they beat it into us.
And so
disciplined us.
How is it in such a house? 3 boys, and then if your mom is a teacher, boys are always fighting, and how was the discipline there? How would they handle some of that?
Well, we were young, very young, but as you know, the last borns always get that preference. And since I was the first born, I never got away with anything.
You're the one everybody is looking up to enforce.
Yeah. But there is an interesting story I remember that my mother told me about my birth. She and my dad were heading somewhere, Jinja, the outskirts of, at the very outskirts, the other side of the eastern side of Uganda.
Yeah.
And as they were heading somewhere, they got into a car accident. So she was pregnant with me, and a taxi hit her. When the taxi hit her, she was rushed to hospital. And having been rushed to hospital, of course, the conclusion was there's no way your child can survive. Okay, my dad was at a near death point because of that accident, and both my parents point to that point as a turnaround.
Yeah.
Because it was a destiny-defining point.
At that point, anything can happen.
Yeah, and through prayers, somehow both my father, who they never thought he would survive, and myself was in my mother's stomach at that time. We survived, and I'm here years later. So she points to that as something divine. It's the reason why they even gave me the name Daniel. Daniel means God.
Finally, a name that has a meaning.
That has a meaning.
Means that God is what?
God is my judge.
Yeah.
So no one else has judgment over your life except God. He decides whether you live or die. Okay. As the firstborn, that's the name that I was given. My actual first name is Rodney. Daniel was my middle name, but it transitioned over time.
To become the main one.
Yeah, the main one.
So I see a bit of, the hand of God patterns into, all the things around, and then some history with the family being religious. Why do you think that at that point was there an exposure to the things of God, or these are things that people will just see in life and hope that maybe it means something?
From the little that I remember, there was very little exposure to the things of God at that time, especially from my remembrance, from the little that I remember. My family, of course, my parents say that there was a strong belief in the divine, because my grandmother, my dad's mother, she was one of those hardcore Christians, and her presence, even more than the rest, my grandfather and so on, her presence, she played a pillar of Christianity in the entire family.
Was she one of the people who were staying around when you were growing up?
Well, she used to stay in the village. She'd come to visit once in a while.
Yeah.
But I found her, she was a very interesting character. Very, very interesting. You could see she wasn't just religious, she was spiritual. A very prayerful woman, very strong character. She didn't take nonsense.
So how do you distinguish that, especially at a time like that? What does it mean to be religious and spiritual? Because when you're in a country that's very religious, sometimes it looks like it's the same thing. What do you see maybe in hindsight from what was happening from the people who are spiritual and those who are religious?
I think people who are religious have limited the move of God to what they know, and to what they've heard from the past. My grandmother was not like that. When she prayed, if there was any situation in the house, she would go pray and say, God has told me, this has changed. This is someone who had a communion with God. She saw God more than just a person limited and restricted to a book. That woman was spiritual.
But was she educated? Would you say it's because she would read the Bible, or she actually had a relationship?
Actually, I don't remember. I don't think she was educated. What I know is that she had stopped somewhere in school, but she hadn't finished it. So you could say she was educated.
She was able to read.
She was able to read and write.
Yeah.
But from all I can remember, what she would read and write was just the Bible. So that was her extreme focus, plus the fact that she was a farmer, an agriculturalist. Something my dad picked up from her. But she was very, very spiritual.
So the religious people just have a certain form they have understood things, and
it's a form of godliness, but denying
the power.
The power there.
So even when they pray hoping that something comes through, but not with the definiteness.
With definiteness. I mean, can you come before God, kneel down, say what you have to say, and have the confidence to know that what you've asked for and what you've said has been heard? That is stretching beyond religion.
So that's the side of spirituality. And at the time when people mix spirituality that is not necessarily from the Bible or from Christianity, and how do they manage to mix that? If maybe at the time when they are believing in traditional, forces, would that come out strongly? Would they say, "Oh, it's the same God"? Or it was?
I think from that, because I was too young, but from what I know, is that there used to be, and I think in most African families, there had been at that time, even today, there's been a mix between tradition, religion, and spirituality. There's been a conk mix, and so someone will come to church on a Sunday, and then go to see their traditional healer in the village the following day, and they'll say, "This is all God," but that's not necessary. So,
so then you start now. You're at Shimoni, the same school your mother. Is that where you continued, or you moved on from there?
Now, after Shimoni, for some reason, I was transferred, taken to school to Namiliango Primary. But I was there for like 2 months. I didn't finish a term. There's very little I remember about the school. But for the 2 months that I was there, after the 2 months, I remember my mother coming to pick me up and telling me that my dad had got a job abroad, and we're now shifting life to Europe.